Assalamualaikum and good morning. My name is Ala Kaisara binti Azharuddin from class MC1101A, and today I will be presenting my second speech to inform for public speaking subject. Mobile phones. You probably own one, you're probably watching this video on one, and when this video ends, you will reply all your messages on the exact same phone in your hand right now. Mobile phones are like a necessity to everybody. People can't leave the house without it, and you always have to keep the battery at 100% before going somewhere. In this technology-driven world, everybody seems to be dependent on their mobile phones, and although there's no denying that these devices are very helpful, they are also slowly starting to take over our lives negatively. Why do I say that? Mobile phones on its own can be considered harmless, but with the existence of the internet and social media, this is when this device can get dangerous. We can't lie to ourselves. For most of us, the moment we wake up, we will look at our phones. We will check for our notifications and messages, and what's worse is, we'll spend hours on our phones before we even get out of bed to meet our family members. We are slowly letting mobile phones control our lives whether we like it or not. Misusing mobile phones with the contribution of the internet has brought many negative effects to people, mentally or physically. Briefly, I will touch on social media. For most of us, when we upload a picture, we find a thrill when someone likes it or leave a positive comment. Do you want to know the explanation why? Here's a clip from a video explaining the science around it.
Right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we go back 10 times to see if my Instagram is growing slower. Did I do something wrong? Do they not like me anymore? Right? The trauma for young kids to be unfriended. Right? Because we know when you get a hit of dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back to it.
After we post a picture, whether it's a scenery or a selfie, it's hard to not be glued to our phones afterwards. Why? Because we're always waiting for notifications. We're waiting for more likes, more comments, and we're just waiting for someone to realize that we posted something. It's normal to evaluate the picture again and again. It's human nature. But that's when it becomes dangerous. We become so dependent on our phones for validation that we feel almost empty when we don't get the attention. Aside from that, it is not a rare sight to see a group of friends or a family out for dinner, but everybody has their eyes on the phone. It's almost like, what's the point if you're just going to use your phone when you're out with people?
That's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, face up or face down, I don't care, that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just not that important to me right now, right? That's what happens. And the fact that you cannot put it away is because you are addicted.
It's completely understandable if an urgent matter comes up while you're out. But if you're on your phone just to play like a video game or watch YouTube, it's better if you put the phone down. Parents nowadays are also turning to phones to entertain their children when they are busy. You can always see babies and toddlers at the table with a phone in their hand. This is a very easy but emotionally damaging way to get your kids to be distracted. Not to mention, without the proper parental guidance, these kids can easily find themselves on websites or channels that are not suitable for them. These findings can stick to them until they get older, where they might share it with their other friends. Teenagers like myself are at fault as well. We're living in such a social media-based world to the point where we're glued to our phones all the time. We feel weird or anxious when we leave the house without it. When we're out with friends, there's always a thought at the back of our head that something more interesting is happening on Twitter or Instagram. Nobody really communicates face-to-face anymore. We would rather text somebody than plan a day out or spend time with them. Phones and social media playing hand in hand has also started many arguments and unnecessary harassment. People find security in hiding behind fake usernames and no profile picture on social media while they mock and harass people. Twitter especially is a big hotspot for racial remarks, targets towards minorities, and hateful comments that are done mostly out of boredom. When you give a phone to someone at such a young age, without the right education on the do's and don'ts, this is what can happen. Lack of understanding of what someone says can hurt other people. This is concerning as the cases of cyberbullying continue to rise, and the ones that unfortunately lead to self-harm or death is not as low as you want them to be. Other than that, phones have opened a getaway for false information and misleading content to be shared on. We see it all the time on WhatsApp when our relatives share something that is completely fake, or on Twitter when someone spreads a fake article just to get retweets and likes. It may seem funny at first, but there are people who generally fall for these so-called jokes and spread them around. A harmless fake tweet is fine, but if it deals with something important, for example the coronavirus pandemic or on an election that is going on, it can scare people, especially those who are traumatized with all these events. I believe parents can take the first step in stopping the phone craze from getting out of hand. Parents have to teach their children on what's right and what's wrong before letting them be responsible of a mobile phone. Parents should also encourage the whole family to verbally communicate to each other when faced with a problem. Do not immediately turn to social media to let your feelings out. With the proper guidance, we can stop depending solely on our mobile phones when it comes to certain situations and not let it control our lives. I believe many people can agree with me that phones have definitely changed our life for the better, but if not used properly, it can ruin lives and one's mental health. I hope my speech can open your eyes slightly on the reasons why we must be careful when using a phone, especially with the ever-growing social media hype nowadays. That is all from me today. Thank you very much.